Hey, this is Tim, and if you are a high-ticket sales rep or if you're a business owner and you're looking for the best closing framework out there, this is not it, to be clear, because I don't know what the best framework is, but this is the framework that I myself have used to earn hundreds of thousands of dollars in commissions and close multi-seven figures for companies that I've worked for as a full-time closer. This is the same framework that I give to my sales reps, the sales reps that I train in my protocols program who are earning hundreds of thousands. We've had reps that are doing 15K, 20K, 25K plus per month consistently, and changing their own lives, changing their families' lives. And today I'm going to give you everything. I'm going to give you the entire framework from top to bottom. So we have a lot to get to. The first thing we're going to look at is foundational principles and basically the scripting we use to have an elite level discovery. So I'll share that with you. Then we're going to go very, very deep into the pitching structures and how to actually pitch. And then I'll break down objection handling in detail. So we have a lot to run through. This is kind of one of those, I guess, mega trainings that you maybe stumble upon on YouTube a year after a year after it's been uploaded. That's going to be one of these trainings. I'm really going to go all in and just give everything away here. And the value of this really is that if you're in the game of selling anything high ticket, again, as a business owner, or if you're in the game of selling anything high ticket as a closer, this is going to make you more money. And there's a bunch of people we've made money with this. Some of these people you may know from my channel because I've shouted them out. I've interviewed them. Jabari, Charlie, who's actually our discovery coach right now. Husham, who's also a performance coach now in protocols. NeroKnowledge, I built his sales team and built his sales process. Got him $250K per month. We got Sati, Kyrill, Joe, Valeria, Amon, Colin, and many other wins that we have from this process, which I'm not going to go into here because this video is not like a VSL where I'm trying to necessarily get you to book a call from this. So we'll go right back to here. So here's the high ticket closing framework that we use. We'll dive in. First thing we need to do is establish a couple foundational principles because this framework only works if you work. Like genuinely, this framework is not like a magical cheat code where, oh, you have a framework, you have some kind of scripting, and boom, you're going to print and make money out of nowhere because you memorized things. That's not how this works. There's 4 core principles, foundational principles that back this framework, and this framework will only work. You can only really use it and properly make money with this framework if you adhere to these core principles and if you implement them, if you embody them. So number 1 is extreme responsibility over outcomes without neediness, especially, by the way, when it comes to our objection handling process, which is simple to use, yes, but it can really challenge you a lot using this process. So this mindset here becomes really important. Extreme responsibility over outcomes without attaching to neediness. And I'll actually move my cursor here. I would rather highlight this way. So I'll do this. Yeah, this is super, super important. Extreme responsibility over outcomes without neediness. A lot of sales reps, they get to a place where you have this kind of entitlement, like, oh, I'm a closer, I should be closing someone, and I'm handling people's limiting beliefs, and there's a bit of an ego around it. When you're closing using our frameworks, you have to sell, and I literally mean you have to. I never like telling people you have to do anything, but in this case, you have to if you're going to use our framework and make money with it. You have to sell without an egoic attachment to the outcome of the sale. Okay, so I have extreme responsibility over outcomes, meaning everything that I do on the sale or I do on my calls personally, I take extreme responsibility over that, right? But outside of that, I have no neediness and there's no attachment to any specific outcome because in my own mind, I'm like, hey, whether this person buys or this person doesn't, I'm just leading them to the place where they can begin to make a helpful and informed decision. And if they decide not to do that, and if they don't take that path, there is nothing that I can do to help them because it's them that has to walk the walk and them that has to take the initiative, right? So extreme responsibility, which means I am responsible over my own process. Yes, that's a fact. You are responsible over your own process. You're extremely responsible over your performance and over executing. But the end outcome, which is maybe the person buys, I have no neediness attached to that, right? So if the person doesn't buy, no sweat off my back. It doesn't mean, again, that I genuinely don't care. I'm not going to say that. Yes, I want everyone to make changes. I want everyone to do better. I want everyone to change their lives. But I'm not taking on a responsibility over attached to neediness, meaning I need this. I'm very detached from what the person decides to do. The only thing that I do take responsibility for is the outcome of my process and did I go through my process correctly. So that's number 1. Secondly is competence is the highest value. So I've trained quite a few reps at this point. I think in the last year we've worked with around 70 sales reps in protocols, give or take. Some programs have had hundreds and hundreds of clients come through. I have not focused on scaling protocols. We keep it very intimate. It's like a family. We have a very intimate, small tight unit of a program that we run. But for us, one of the things that we've seen that really helps people stand out in sales and just helps people have success, which means get on really good offers with 25, 30, 40K a month OTE, sales reps performing at a really high level where they're changing their lives, or even business owners changing their lives, and just being in a completely different position, really comes down to competence. I wrote originally skill set. I wrote that before, but skill set comes under competence. So competence, the way I define it actually, is your ability to adjust, your ability to recognize patterns, and your ability to adjust within those patterns and implement them into your own process. So if you're a person who lacks competence, I'm just being very honest with you, you're not going to succeed using this framework, any framework. I don't know how to tell you if you lack competence or not. Pretty much everyone I train in protocols has a certain degree of competence. Some people are more competent than others. Some people just get shit very, very fast. Others tend to struggle. But generally what I found is the people that are more competent tend to do better. And that's just the raw reality of it. So a lot of people watching this, maybe you're a closer right now, maybe you're coming in from being a setter and you want to be a closer, or you're already a closer and you're not doing exactly where you want to be and you could do better. Competence is our highest value, which means your ability to go through and look at all of this and be able to implement it at scale, being able to implement it consistently and repeatedly, right? That's the highest value that's going to make you a lot of money. And then we have this point, which is buying decisions are backed by logic and driven by emotions. Now, this is one of my favorite points when it comes to sales and something that I absolutely believe in, and I had to learn this the hard way. Because I used to think, because I had been following some people that were not actually very helpful when it came to sales, I used to believe, and I genuinely thought that I could kind of just emotionally sell my way into closing, where it was like, if I can get someone crying on a call, they're going to buy. Or if I can get someone emotionally invested, they're going to buy. But sales, especially high ticket sales, when you're doing short cycle sales, 45 to an hour long calls, trying to close on one call, 1 to 2 calls maximum, it's not just emotion. The logic actually has to make sense for the person to make a decision, which means that they have to decide, and you'll see this more when I break down how we pitch, they have to decide within themselves that logically, yes, I should do this, and the logic has to check out, so put a little check mark there, right? The logic has to check out, and then that logic leads into the emotion, and then the emotion acts as a driver to get them to actually make the decision and the commitment in the moment. Right? That's the process. So the logic is the baseline fundamental. It's like, it only makes sense for me to do this, and there's no logical reason why I shouldn't invest or shouldn't pay the 8K for the ecomm coaching, or pay the 10K for the dating coaching, or pay the 10K for sales coaching, right? That's the logic. And then the emotion behind it is the trigger that's like, we need to do this now because we're losing out on time. Even that's logical. But if we feel the loss, we feel the cost of an action, the consequence, the fear, if we don't take action now and moving towards that desire. So the emotion is the trigger. So it's very important you understand this. The way we sell, the way I sell, and this is I've done very well for myself in high ticket sales and being on an offer. I'll tell you guys more about this over the next coming weeks as I perform, but I've gotten an offer and I'm back fully in the game, full-time closing again, because I just decided it was time after taking a few months off. But basically the buying decisions are backed by logic and driven by emotion, and I've seen this in my sales process. When I'm closing people, even my objection handling is not based on like, who do you want to be? It's not that. Like, that's not the anchor of how I handle objections. That's not the anchor of how I close people. The anchor is, does it logically make sense for you to do this or for you not to do this? And if the person can't determine that it doesn't logically make sense, and they're like, no, the logic actually does make sense. Hey, well, there we go. Let's move towards a buying decision. Not because I want to take your money. I mean, sure, I want to. That's a representation of you committing to the goal. You have to pay for it, like for the training, for the outcome. Yes, for us helping you get to the outcome. But the logic just makes sense, which means that the prospect doesn't have a lot of grounds to avoid making change, which some people will do. Then what we've got is aggressive problem solving. So as a sales rep, I see myself purely as a problem solver, and I see myself as an aggressive problem solver. There are very few problems that I can't solve for my prospects. Very, very few. Like just today, we brought someone into our protocols training, and he kind of had an issue with logistically, just with some work thing where he couldn't use the training now because he's not going to be able to come to our live training sessions and things like that, which I get. He won't be able to role play and jump into the community. We solved it. I said, just come in, right now, make the commitment if you're committed to actually making change and getting to where you want to be, hitting 10 to 20K as a closer. He's like, yes, I am fully committed to that. Are you committed to doing that with us? Yeah, I'm committed to that. Cool. Okay, then come through and we'll get you started in 2 weeks officially, but I'll give you access to a bunch of materials now. Right now he's in the program. Everything was great. There was no real objection, no crazy emotion. Going back to logic again, because logically it made sense, but then also aggressively I was looking for how to solve his problem. The problem was only logistics. There was no fear behind it. I tested that to make sure. And he came in, he's going to be great. He's going to do very well. We're going to make him a bunch of money, right? So as a closer, whether you're a closer or a business owner, what you're doing is when you step into a sales call, you're stepping into the hat, as it were, of problem solving. And the protocols that we have, which is what we're going to go into in this training. And again, we have a lot of stuff to get to, guys. There's so much crazy value here that we're going to get to, some insane stuff that'll really change the game for you. All of the stuff that we teach is completely based on you being a problem solver and understanding that logic is your biggest tool when it comes to solving these problems, if that makes sense. So let's go ahead and kickstart our process. Let's look at the sales engine that we're using. The sales engine that I use right now, this is the most updated version of how I sell because I'm always learning, I'm always getting better. I never see myself as one of those guys who's like, I found the right way and this is the way and it has to be this way. I just have different iterations of what I found works for me. So this is the version of sales that I've been using that I found is working the best for me, and it's called PUG framing. So I'll explain what that stands for in a second. But we use PUG, P-U-G. It means problem, urgency, and gaps, and we'll break down that model in a bit. So PUG framing has really changed the game for me because I found that using PUG, the PUG framework that we have, is essentially the most psychologically efficient way to sell. This is not actually the baseline of the frameworks are the same, but in the psychology is basically the same. The way we teach things in protocols is a little bit different. Inside of our training program, I teach a different model because when you're teaching this in a scaled format, to a bunch of different sales reps, you have to teach it as efficiently as possible. But here on YouTube, because I'm not literally your coach, because you have not paid me, I can give you kind of a really high level version of this that you can take and plug into some of your calls that I think should just provide a massive amount of value. So I'll give you the best version of what we have right now. So our whole sales model is based on future, okay? It's based on future, meaning where you want to be in your future and what things are preventing you from accessing that future now, and then what problems or gaps can we solve for you, what problems, I should say, can we solve for you to make that future come true as efficiently and quickly as possible, okay? Unlike some other sales processes that I've seen, like as an example, Cole Gordon, right, who's, a foundational piece in one of the legends of high ticket sales. I don't know if we call him a legend, but he's one of the foundational members on that high ticket sales Mount Rushmore, I guess you call it. As an example, a lot of his sales reps follow a very past driven sales process, right? Which like what did happen in the past? How did that feel? Tell me about what went wrong before, right? Our sales process and what I sell on is future. Future meaning where do you want to be, where are you trying to get to, and what are the current blocks in the present that you're either experiencing in your life or that you're experiencing in your journey to trying to achieve that, right? So some people, I'll give an example, we'll go into this in the training, but some people, let's take an example of a biz op, right? You're selling on a biz op, let's pretend you're selling TikTok shop biz op, or like YouTube, let's say YouTube automation biz op, because I'm coaching a guy who's closing on YouTube automation. So let's say you're closing that, right? And you get a lot of prospects who come in and they've never tried YouTube automation before, and it's their first time really doing it, and they're doing it because they want financial freedom. They want to get out of the 9 to 5, right? If you get a guy like that or a gal on a call, a prospect, problems that you're going to be solving for them are not going to be problems that are grounded in what hasn't been working with YouTube automation, especially if they haven't tried anything already. The problems are going to be grounded in right now in your life, what's preventing you from accessing a vehicle to financial freedom and what makes it so hard for you to find the right vehicle. That's still present problem. We anchor to that, and our company, meaning the business opportunity, is going to be the solution, right? It's going to be the solution for what they're looking for, and we're going to provide that solution to them literally with the business model. So it's not like you're doing YouTube automation, already making 5K a month and you want to scale to 20 because it's a biz op. So most people are not going to do that. They're discovering this for the first time, or maybe they've been looking into it but haven't done it well, things like that, right? So instead it's you haven't done it, you're not sure about how to do it. We're going to solve that problem, give you the information, and then help you grow. Whereas other problems could be different. Let's say that someone has already been doing TikTok shop or YouTube automation, and they've already been experiencing some relative means of success, not consistent success, but they're at a point of like 3 to 4K, right? Maybe profit, or even 2 to 3K. That positioning would then be, what's the problem stopping you from doing it better, right? Not even from just starting, because they have already started, so we can't sell on that now. Instead, it's what's the problem stopping you from actually doing better. So as a sales rep, it's very important noticing these patterns and understanding who you're selling to, how to communicate to them, what problems that the company can actually solve, and I'll dive like really deep into what to do there, how to do all that. But this is what we call the future-driven sales engine. So when I'm talking to prospects, my primary goal really is figuring out where they're trying to get to in their future, and up until this moment at least, what's been preventing them from accessing that, okay? So the first step that we have is what we call establishing the Holy Grail. The Holy Grail means where is it that they want to get to in their life? Like what's the outcome that they're trying to achieve? And we back that outcome with a number. Now, here's what I'll say. The outcome is not always going to just be a number, because I'll use the offer that I'm working on right now. I'm selling high ticket drop shipping. Okay, so the high ticket drop shipping coaching, it's essentially a business opportunity, and we educate people on how to get into high ticket drop shipping, how to scale to like 10, 15K profit per month within, let's say, a 6 to 8 month time period. And a lot of people want to get out of their 9 to 5 jobs. A lot of people want more financial freedom. Maybe we get some people who are retired and are looking for a way to keep an income stream going or get another online, more passive income stream, right? So when you get someone like that, if sometimes we'll get prospects who are coming in and they're like, I'll get some guy who's used to working like in law, or he used to work in real estate, and maybe he's 55, business has slowed down for him. He's not really interested in like active real estate anymore. He's sitting on a bunch of cash, but he still does want to make cash come in. His Holy Grail is like the number, yes, is going to be 10 to 15K ideally, sure, but his actual Holy Grail is not going to be anchored only to that number, because his Holy Grail is going to be beyond that, right? So as an example, you can see here what I wrote is an example of a Holy Grail is make 12K a month with ecomm to replace your construction income and spend more time traveling with the family, right? So here, the Holy Grail, yes, is 12K per month, but that's a representation. Maybe I'll write that down here, just to have a note. I don't think I can write here actually, so I won't write right now. But what I would want to do here is write this and write, it's a number backed end outcome, but you're essentially representing like what that means. Does it make sense? I think there we go. I can write if I do this, right? So it would be what the number represents, right? So it's not always that the number itself is the biggest thing that matters. Yes, 100% the number does matter. That's a fact. It matters. But it's more about what the number represents at scale, what it represents when placed into one's life, right? So again, some guy who's working in construction, he wants to make 12K per month, but let's say he's already making 12K per month with construction. Then the Holy Grail specifically is not going to be the 12K. The 12K matters, but it matters only so that he can achieve this outcome of replacing his construction income and spending more time with the family. So when I sell, when we have a discussion, when we have dialogue, it's going to be all around him getting out of the construction job and being able to spend more time with the family. For me, with that prospect I mentioned, the old guy who's a mature guy who's working in real estate, guy in his 50s, he's working in real estate. That guy, what's the Holy Grail going to be there? It's going to be, yeah, sure, make 15K per month with ecomm passively, but he already has money. So it's not like that number is deeply significant per se. It is significant, yes, and we use it to represent the end outcome, but the end outcome for him is going to be maybe travel more, maybe have more financial just flexibility since his other income is dipping and dropping, right? That's what it actually represents. Now, what we do after Holy Grail, and I'm going to give you scripting on this. We're going to get to the scripting in a second. What we do here is our goal is to identify a core problem set. That's what I'd like to do. So a core problem set can really manifest in two ways, generally. Core problem sets and urgency triggers can overlap. So I want you to be clear, because in a second I'm going to go into scripting, and a lot of sales reps that are making like 3K, 4K a month, like entry level or beginner level sales reps who are not where they want to be, who are maybe even at 5, 6K a month. A lot of times you guys get lost very, very much in scripting and very much in, okay, what is the order? And I'll tell you, when we train protocols reps, the first thing we do is say memorize the scripting and memorize the order, because it gives you a solid foundation. But over time, I'll tell you the truth, for you to start making commission months of 15K, 20K, like 30K plus, the way that, again, our top people are doing, the way that I've been able to do for myself, if you want to do that, you have to think beyond script, and you have to think in terms of these points. Problem, like I said here, right? We have problem, check that off. You need urgency checked off, and you need gaps checked off, right? That was a really shitty check mark. So let me do another one. I want them all to look the same. There we go. Right. So you need to think in terms of, do I have a clear problem? meaning problem that they're facing in their life now or problem that they're facing achieving XYZ outcome. Urgency, which means what's the reason to do this now? We call it an urgency trigger. I'll give that to you in a second. And then gaps, meaning where they'll be in the future, either the bad version of that, like the consequence, the fear, or the desire, the good side, what the sales space calls future pacing. That's a gap, right? Where they are now versus where they want to or don't want to be. So going back to this, the main thing I want to do, the first thing I want to do generally is I want to assign and identify a core problem set, okay? So assigning and identifying a core problem set basically is what's the thing that's preventing you from being where you want to be right now, where you want to be in the future, I should say. Does that make sense? So problem set is like, let's go back to the guy who wants to get into ecomm to replace his construction income. We'll use that person as a case study consistently. So the problem has to be aligned with what the company can actually solve. So an example of a great problem with this guy would be he tried opening 2 stores before, but he ran into a lot of problems with his ads and he couldn't handle inventory. He didn't know what to do there. It just got too confusing. But he figured out how to make a little bit of money, but over a while it just kind of burned out and it was too confusing. He didn't understand how to be consistent or maintain margins. He was spending too much on ads, things like that. Amazing. That's a perfect problem, right? Because we can fix that for him. So he tried before, he failed, he didn't achieve XYZ outcome. Tell me more about what happened there. What was the problem you were experiencing, right? But a bad problem, as an example, this is a negative example here, is I haven't had enough time to do the thing, right? That's a shitty problem, right? I haven't had enough time because we're not going to create more time in this person's life. So if this guy if I were to ask him, so what's the thing that's kind of been stopping you from growing ecomm right now and making money with it? Why are you not doing it now? And he's like, dude, I haven't had enough time. I can't sell on that because we're not a time-saving coaching company. We're an ecomm coaching company. So if he's like, I don't have enough time to do it, why would he have enough time later when he's inside the program? That leads to an objection, right? I don't want that. So we need the problem to be identified with what the company actually can solve. A good example again is the one we just gave, like the one I said earlier, which is I tried before and I experienced these bottlenecks. And I'll axe out this because the example is actually a bad example. So this isn't, by example, I meant like a poor example, you know? So the kind of the rule for problems, and this is a really easy, I guess I would call it a formula for you to understand problem solving or identifying problems as a closer or even as a business owner, is the more data that the person has, so the more data that there is, the more like information that they have in terms of I've done something in the past, the more technically positioned the problem is going to be. Does that make sense? Right? Like if the person has done more things, so I used to close on a dating offer as an example. And when I would get a guy, it was a dating offer teaching men how to get out there, put themselves out there and find a great relationship or date girls and then find their dream partner, right? If I would get a prospect who was already taking action in their dating life, who was going out and trying, who was like approaching girls, who was going to bars here and there and saying what's up, cold approaching, who was, going on some dates and they weren't finding their dream partner, there would be a lot more data there for me to actually use to when I pitch, which I'll get into how we properly pitch. There would have been a lot more data for me to use as a problem set that we can solve as a company, right? So I can say, we're going to teach you how to approach the right way. We're going to teach you as a company, or we can talk about how to approach the right way. We can talk about how to build confidence. We can talk about, this and that and this and that, a lot of data. So the problem itself is going to be more technically positioned. If there's less data, which is this side, right? Less data, which means the prospect is doing nothing really, barely anything. Let's say again, a guy in ecomm who's like, I've never started an ecomm business or YouTube automation. I've never done this before. I've just been working in accounting and I've tried some like online money making schemes. I tried some crypto, but nothing ever came of it. The problem is going to be a more emotionally or fear positioned problem. Doesn't mean that the person is genuinely scared, but it means that the thing that we can solve for them is not wasting time or wasting money when starting. Does that make sense? So we're basically buying back a bit of their time and providing the education to just do it right the first time and even know what to do in the first place, right? So we have these two kinds of problems. We have a more data-driven problem, which is we're trying to fix a specific thing that you're doing wrong as a prospect, that the prospect is doing wrong. Or the second one is going to be less data, which is going to be generally biz ops sales or even some fitness sales. I'm not doing anything. I need guidance, mentorship, and coaching to do things correctly. And again, I'll get into the scripting on this. We've got a lot to get to when it comes to scripting. I'll show you what that looks like. And there's kind of three problem sets. You can imagine it like this. Let's call that number one. We have number two, And then we have number 3, right? So the 3 problem sets that you're generally going to see, give me some room for error here, because as I sell, I tend to discover more, but you tend to see these 3 general problems categories come up. I've tried things that didn't work before. So the person has tried before things that didn't work, either to get out of their current situation, right? Again, that still could be less data. So less data has nothing to do with these problem sets. It could be very, very different, right? So you could have more data and within one of these problem sets. So you do the math on that, whatever 3 times 2 is, or 3 squared, I think we'd call it, right? 3 squared. So there's going to be, I hope I'm doing this correct, but I think that means that there would be 9 of these potentially. This is a cool equation for someone to figure out. It's either 6 or 9, right? But if there's 2 of these, more or less data, and they can be assigned to each problem set, no, it's going to be 6 because it's 3 times 2. So it's 6. It's not 3 squared. It would be 3 squared if it was 3 times 3. I forgot math. I used to be very good at math, by the way. I placed into advanced calculus when going to university straight out of high school. But then I stopped and I started focusing on psychology. That's a whole another story for another day. Anyhow, so going back to problem sets. So number 1 is going to be, I tried other things that didn't work, right? So let's say there was more data and they're like, I tried a certain version of dropshipping or a certain version of ecomm, or I tried a certain version of like dating. Like I was doing tons of online dating. Right, I would experience that a lot in the dating offer. A lot of guys who did online dating, we weren't huge fans of online dating. On the dating offer I was selling, we would like the company would teach it, but it wasn't the priority. It was like take initiative, take action on your own to go out and like cold approach and connect with women in person, right? So let's say they were saying I did a bunch of online dating. That's more data, but I tried a thing that didn't work, right? I tried other things that were not related to this directly, but they didn't work in the past, right? And then we have less data, which could be I tried other business models potentially, or I tried other things that just didn't work for me, and then I kind of gave up. Tried other things that didn't work with less data because they haven't done the thing that we as a company do. Does that make sense? And then number 2 could be lack of knowledge. Sometimes they'll be combined, by the way, but generally they're going to fall into a main category. Lack of knowledge would be I just don't know how to do the thing. So you see this with the biz op, right? Lack of knowledge. I have no idea how dropshipping works. I have no idea how trading works, even though I would think a trading biz op is a terrible offer, to be honest, because trading offers are good, but trading biz op doesn't even make sense because you could learn everything online and start for free. But lack of knowledge, right, around how to actually do the thing. Maybe I'm getting into it for the first time. It's overwhelming. Oh my goodness, there's a lot. Right, that's lack of knowledge. And then number 3 is trying with lack of results. So I have been trying the thing. I have been trying to escape and have more freedom, assuming it's a biz op, or if it's not a biz op, something else like fitness, right? I'm trying and I'm going to the gym and I am trying dieting, but I'm not getting results. There's either, again, going to be more data or there's going to be less data. Generally, if someone's trying and they're actually doing something for real, there's going to be more data. Generally, there are some cases where they think that they're trying, but then you dig in and they're not actually trying. And then it quickly becomes less data and just becomes like actually starting for real. But generally, if they're trying with lack of results and it's honest, it's going to be more data. So you have these 3 problem sets and you need to figure out which one you're getting and here's why it's important, because the scripting is going to change depending on the problem set, right? So yes, you will have, here's the scripting for problems. So yes, you will have these general questions for sure, but there are other questions that we have in here that I didn't list because as a sales rep, you cannot be stuck on a script. So as an example, or the point I have here is you have to create dialogue. So it's not enough to just hear the problem, okay, and move on. We create dialogue around the problem. Dialogue means we create a conversation and a tangible discussion around the actual problem itself. So we figure out what's going on. We figure out how that problem's been affecting them. We figure out how it's felt dealing with that problem, what the frustration is, and we assign value to the problem, which means we make it tangible and we make it real. This is how you do sales well. And again, I will show you what this sounds like in the scripting. I'm going to run through some examples and run through some scripting with you. Okay. The other piece that's interesting is we always need to have, the next step in the process is we want to create something called an urgency trigger. I'll tell you one thing, all of this is not necessarily working in this order. So sometimes what I'll do is I'll start off with the core problem set, what's been going on, then I'll jump into Holy Grail, and then I'll go into gap building, and then I'll do urgency. Sometimes I'll start off just with Holy Grail, and then I'll go into gap building because it feels natural to me, and then I'll go from gap building into a problem set. Generally, problem set's always going to happen within the first 3, and then I'll go urgency, and then I'll create another gap, maybe around fear or desire, whatever one I didn't do early, right? So I won't take the specific order to this. Generally, you're going to have problem set and Holy Grail as 1 or 2. Generally, it's going to happen, and then you'll have urgency and gaps at the tail end, generally, but there is no fixed order. But what we're going to do next in theory is create an urgency trigger, okay? An urgency trigger, as I said here, is a clear identifiable reason for why this person wants to take action now versus taking action later, okay? That's what an urgency trigger is. It's like, what's the reason why we should do this now instead of doing it at a different time? And what we like to do is we have 3 urgency triggers here. You can identify them into one of these 3 things. And I normally like to have at least one. I generally like to have at least one. I will say that sometimes people are going to have a very weak blend of like two of these or 3 of these. Sometimes it's not always going to be always one. Sometimes there may be these 2, or sometimes there may be like these 2 maybe. But generally, I'm gonna have like something to anchor why we do this now onto, right? And we want to make sure that that thing is relatively clear and that it's part of a dialogue, because if something is a part of a dialogue and a discussion, it becomes a relevant part of the buying decision. If you do not have a dialogue around it and you do not have a discussion around it, it is not a relative part of, it's not a real part of the buying discussion, or the buying, what's the word I want to use? The buying conversation, right? So what we do is we go for an urgency trigger. An urgency trigger in sales, as I teach it, and I think pretty much around the board, because there's a lot of people who teach urgency. Of course, everyone knows you need to create urgency. How you do that, though, is important. So what we do is we look at a clear, identifiable reason for taking action now versus doing things later. Okay, that's what an urgency trigger is. So what I like to do is I always like to assign a value to it, which is either the time cost, what are you losing over the next week to month to years by not doing this now? That could be one. An exact moment, that's another one. What was the moment where this became clear to you, where you realized that this was the case? Like where you realized that you needed to make change, you realized you needed to achieve XYZ result. There's moment, and then there's for who. Who are you doing this for? So who's losing out if you didn't do this now, right? Like, is there someone in your life that's counting on you? Is it your mom? Is it your little brother? Is it your cousins? Is it, I don't know who it is, but is there someone is it even you? Could be them too, right? Rarely, it's less often just me. Oftentimes people do have others in their lives often, but it's like, who are we doing this for? And what I want to do then is I want to create a dialogue around this. Again, don't worry, I'm going to script it and I'm going to show you how. But we want to create a dialogue around one of these triggers. I want it to be very, very clear and become a tangible part of the buying decision, because I need it to be relevant. I need the person, when I drop that price, when I say, so the investment's going to be $8.5K and we'll get you started with your coach as soon as possible if you feel like it's a good fit. When I say that, I need all of this shit to have been discussed earlier so that that is a relevant part of them saying yes. Because if we don't get this stuff, their yes is just based on, do I decide to, do I not? But I want to influence the prospect. That's what sales is. You're influencing people. I want to influencing them for good. It's not bad. I want to influence them to say yes, and the best way to optimize for that yes is to make sure that these different steps, again, core problem set, holy grail, urgency triggers, and gaps, which I'll get into, are a part of the buying conversation, a part of the buying decision, okay? So I'm going to create dialogue around this, and I'll create dialogue around one of these triggers. Dialogue, don't let that word freak you out. It just means discussion. It means back and forth. It means probing, clarifying, probing, and understanding the meaning and the significance behind whatever the answers are that they give you, okay? So I want to create dialogue around this. The final stage, and again, generally it's going to go in this order, we move down and we identify and assign gaps. So we've got 2 gaps that we create. We have the desire state and we have the fear state. So a gap means where are you going to be then versus where are you now? And we have the good and the bad. So the good is desire. Some people in sales call it future pacing. It's a very common word. Where do you want to be in the future versus where are you now? We want to create a gap to stretch the significance basically of the investment. So if someone pays $8K in, let's say, fitness, right? And we've gone holy grail and we're like, oh, you want to lose 20 pounds. No one's paying $8K to fucking lose 20 pounds. Doesn't make sense. Someone is going to pay $8K though to give the best version of themselves to their family and be a great example for their children so that they can see a healthy, fulfilled and happy version of their mother who's thriving and who is ascending into this incredible woman of strength, confidence, and courage. You heard that? Yeah, that sounds like fucking $8K. That's the no-brainer for $8K. You know, it depends on how the prospect sees it, but generally I can pull that one off way more than I can, oh, you'd like to lose 25 pounds, right? So that's desire state. We're creating a gap. Where will you be then versus where are you now? Then we have fear state. A fear state is the consequence. What do you fear? What are you running away from? What would you like to not happen, right? So if you didn't get to where you wanted to be, what would you be fearing? Like, what do you fear at night? What's the reality that you fear coming true? That's also a gap. It's a negative gap, but it's where we don't want to be versus now, okay? So what we do is, again, we want to create dialogue around then versus now, and there's 2 levels to this. Remember this is very important. This is like a fundamental part of how we train. We have the practical level, which is what does it look like day to day? So every single day, what does it look like every day? And then we have the emotional level, which is what does it feel like, okay? So the emotional level is when you're in that position, what would it feel like being there? The practical level is what's going to change day to day. Let's pretend money. Let's go back to this guy. 12K ecomm guy who wants to make money and get out of construction. The practical level of that would be you should know these answers as a sales rep. So you need to know the answers you want to get, or you should at least know where the conversation should generally go. You do not want to ask questions just to ask them. So the practical level for this guy, reality-wise, one, he's probably not going to have to work in the hot sun or in the winter in the freezing cold, have his hands cold and just being outside. Also, the work is probably very labor intensive, so he won't have to do that. So what would it look like? Because that was what he won't have. We don't want that answer. What it should look like is him being able to spend more time with his kids and give back them to him, give himself to them. Another one would be him earning the same. Let's pretend he was just replacing his income, earning income literally off of his phone, seeing Stripe notifications coming from payments and purchases, giving him much more financial flexibility, much more financial freedom, practical level. See what I mean? He's him seeing that day to day. What's the emotional level now? What's the feeling that's attached to it? It would feel fulfilling. It would feel freeing. It would feel, that feeling would be a gratitude, right? And then we have the other side, the fear state. What does it look like day to day? As he gets older, let's pretend the guy's 29 now. What happens as you get into your 30s, brother, you get older. Again, I'll give you some scripting on this. I'll show you what it would sound like. But what does it look like day to day? More backbreaking work. It can't be good for his health. So him just feeling more worn out, him feeling more frustrated, him feeling, that's a feeling, by the way, so that's emotional level. So I'm not going fully practical. I want to show you an example, but the practical level would be physically feeling burned out, physically feeling worn out, it tearing down his body. Practically also him not being able to spend time with his kids as much as he'd like because he's putting in 10 to 12 hour days, sometimes having to go on weekends to collect overtime for cash just to be able to pay bills and be able to provide and give his family a little bit extra, right? That's practical level. What's the feeling? Frustration, overwhelmed, feels like giving up. Life shouldn't be like this. There's the emotional level. And I want to have a dialogue around both of these as much as possible. Every call, I won't always get a dialogue around everything, to be honest, because it really depends on the prospect. If I get a buyer who's already in a very good state, let's say, I'm not going to create significantly more desire because I just don't think I'm going to get more out of him, genuinely. So if I want an offer, let's say ecomm, and the guy's already making 20K per month with his 9 to 5, but he doesn't have as much freedom as he wants. He's okay. He doesn't work like crazy. But let's say he has 9 to 5 and he wants to travel more. His desire state, I'm not going to go what would it feel like being able to travel a little bit more or more? I'm not going to really go there. I might just lightly say, what would the feeling be there, bro? Just having the flexibility. I might frame it like that, but I'm not going to lean into it because I don't think that his desire state would be that high. Same thing with fear state, right? What happens if you don't? I don't think that the biggest answer, he'd be like, my life would be fucked. I just don't believe I would get that high level of compliance on fear. So I'm not going to try to go for it. I'm going to go within the range of what I think the prospect will give me. Right, and I'll explain more about that in future trainings. That's a little bit more advanced. I don't think I'm going to go into that here. We train a lot on that in protocols in our advanced trainings. Let's go into some scripting. I'll break down to you how everything should sound, what you want to run through. And again, guys, I want to be clear. This is a very, very rough overview of our scripting. I'm serious. Half my calls do not sound like this. You'll hear, if you hear any of my live calls, and I put a bunch of them on YouTube, so you guys should have access to them, and you can see them. If you're in our school community as well, you see some of my calls. I put my full stack calls in there. It's just quantum level. You can see it here in my bookmarks. Oh, you can't see that. I don't think my mouse goes up to there, or you can't see it on the screen. But we have a group called Quantum Level. You can join that. It's free. It's where I show a lot of my calls and stuff, and it's completely free to join. And there's so much more information and trainings we have in there. It's on school.com/quantum level. But the point I was going to make is when I'm going through the scripting here, I don't really say all this. I say some elements of it, like I definitely do. I get a number. I ask people about their challenges, but I'm very intuitive, and I will change my scripting depending on what I'm getting from the prospect. So it doesn't mean that there's not elements of this. Every call, I generally always go through gap creation, urgency, problem set, and then holy grail. I always do this every single call. Yes. However, the qualification is I'm not necessarily sticking to the script religiously because sometimes there are questions I just don't ask because I don't need to and I don't believe I need to. And then there's sometimes questions where I do ask that are not on this, okay? So I'll go through this with you. Before I do that, we have a lot to get to. Again, we're going to go deep into pitching. This is going to just make you so much fucking money here, this pitching structure. And then we're going to go into objection handling. I'll see if I can make it through this whole thing because I'm My voice is breaking right now, and I have to get to protocols training in an hour 15 minutes. So we'll see what I can do. We're going to get through this. But what I wanted to say is if you want to see if we can help you, I don't have anything to sell you here on YouTube. I'm not going to tell you to go to some VSL and book a sales call. I'm not telling you that. But we do have a free call. You can book that's 15 minutes. And by free, I mean it's not a sales call. Like, we're not going to pitch you anything. So there's no emotional cost in doing it. What you do is, the link is down below the video. It's a strategy call with one of my top guys. We're going to just figure out if we can help you. We'll see where you're at when it comes to sales. We'll see where you're at when it comes to your closing journey. See how much money you're earning, like how much you're at in commissions. See what bottlenecks are there. We'll do a bit of a light discovery with you. No pitch at all. Zero pitch. We have a policy. We do not pitch on our first call. We just want to connect with you, see if we can help you. And if we can, then we'll, invite you to book a demo call. That's a fucking sales call, where we say, hey, we'll pitch you in terms of how protocols works. Or if we feel like we can, or if you feel like it's not maybe aligned and it's not what you need, that's just not the next step, then we'll give you free value and point you to how you could best make the most of your sales journey, or whatever journey you're on currently career-wise when it comes to this whole world of online money, okay? So I would recommend go doing that. The link is down below. It's just this page, I think we have, QL protocol strategy call. Again, literally, it's a 15-minute call. There's no pitch here. Frank, one of our top people, he's actually also a one-to-one client of mine, and you'll talk to him. He's not gonna pitch you anything. He'll just ask you a couple questions, see if we can help you. It'll be a very short call, and if he can, then we'll invite you to demo call from there. But I'd recommend taking us up on this and just booking this call. It's one of the best opportunities in this space to just get some free value, if that's what's needed, or to actually have an opportunity to change your life and make a bunch of money, okay? So let's go to scripting and let's dive into all this. So the first piece of scripting that I normally am going to go for is just establishing Holy Grail, which is, what are you looking for when it comes to XYZ industry, and where do you want to be in terms of numbers? That's generally where I start. Recently, I'll be real with you, I haven't been opening my calls like this recently. I've been opening my calls more just like, tell me what's been going on. Tell me what brought you here. What brought you to the call, and starting off with a bigger picture, like I'm casting a wider net. I don't teach this because I think that a lot of sales reps need to start off with a more structured, controlled approach. That's what I believe, and you learn it. But over time, as you get really good, as I'm very good at sales, like very good. When you get to that point, then you can have more freedom for how you sell and how you communicate, right? So first though, the general basic scripting is, what are you looking for when it comes to this industry? Where do you want to be numbers wise? Not everyone's going to know this, but we generally want to identify some baseline number. If some people, I'm telling you, are going to say, I don't know, like 5K, you have to challenge them on it. Why just 5K? Ask them that, call them out very gently on it. But we want to stretch the number. The general rule I like is at least 5 figures with any biz op. If it's fitness, I want them to want to lose at least 20 pounds, something that's kind of significant. When I was closing on the dating offer, I would ask prospects, like, what are you looking for when it comes to dating? I pretty much want everyone to say, I want to find a relationship with your girlfriend or a wife with time. Doesn't mean it needs to be now. That's unrealistic. But, over the next year to 2 years, find a really cool girl, a relationship, get more dates. I always want that tangible number, that thing that we can anchor to for the rest of the call. So this is our first scripting. The way it sounds live is, tell me, what are you looking for when it comes to ecomm? Like, where do you want to be in terms of numbers over the next couple of months? Where are you aiming for? What feels good to you? That's kind of how I'll ask it. Don't freak out, or don't look at, because I know when I communicate and when I'm saying this stuff, I'm kind of stuttering a little bit. I do that on purpose. To be clear, you should not sound like the sales rep who knows exactly what to say, because that is not how people talk. So I hear a lot of sales reps, they're like, so brother, like their chest is like squared up like this. I know a lot of these fucking weird dudes out there, and I hope that you're not one of these. If you are, yes, I'm talking shit. I've seen a lot of these guys because I've interviewed a bunch of sales reps for roles that I've hired for, and they'll come on the call, they're like, we'll do a role play, all right, and they square their chest up, and they're like all serious, they're like, so tell me, bro, where do you want to be? I think the kind of fucking person I'm talking to. It disgusts me. I hate that energy. The way I sell just like I'm talking to you. I sell just like this. I start the call back and forth. Where are you from? What do you got going on in life, man? Awesome, dude. Let's jump into it. Tell me, what are you looking for when it comes to ecomm? Like, where do you want to be? What's the whole goal for you in terms of numbers? Where are you trying to get to? That's it. It's fucking simple. Okay. So we establish a basic number at the top. Okay, a very basic number that we can identify and anchor to, and then we go into the problem set. Here is where most sales reps mess up. Here is where sales reps get like where it's bad and where it's not good. Where for most sales reps, where you lose sales. There's actually a bunch of things that causes a lot of sales reps to lose sales, but this is one of the biggest points. If I had to say in your discovery, the thing that loses you the most sales is not getting the right problem and not having enough dialogue on how that problem sits in the person's life. So there are more questions to ask than just these 2 questions, okay? But I can't write them here because there's many variations of those questions. So I'll give you an example. So let's say ecomm guy, okay? Let's go with this same archetype of person, Guy working in construction wants to replace it and spend more time with his family, traveling, giving them a better life, okay? So he's already making 8K with construction. He'd like to make 10 to 12K with ecomm, which means that the holy grail, the incentive, is not deeply financial. There is some financial gain, yes, for sure, but he'd probably be happy making 8K, to be honest, or even 6K consistently if he could quit the job, and then he'd figure out how to just make more, right? That's the holy grail. Remember, we talked about it earlier. What the holy grail is, it's what their number represents in their life. It's not just the number, okay? So going back to this problem set. So let's say I were to ask him, so I guess, John, what's the biggest problem for you, or the biggest bottleneck getting to 10K per month with ecomm? Have you done anything before, or you're trying now for the first time? What's been going on? Okay. And then he says to me, because this could go many different ways. Let's say that he says, well, nah, man, I've been just looking for the right vehicle, and I know I have 2 buddies that are doing ecomm, and they seem to be starting off doing pretty well. They're doing 3, 4K. So I guess I was next in line, and I wanted to give it a shot. This question now does not make sense. How have you tried to fix this? It doesn't make sense, right? So this question only would apply, in theory, if the person is doing something that needs fixing. You see what I mean? This is what I mean. You have to be intuitive in scripting changes. So it's not just like one script every call. It changes. Yes, there are general scripts that you can follow, general rules of thumb. So I'm going to axe out this question now, because I'm not going to say, how have you tried to fix it? Instead, I'm going to say, well, why haven't you gotten into ecomm sooner? Than why is it just now that you're getting in? What's held you back from just jumping and going all in? Right, because the problem now, remember this, there's going to be less data. So it's going to be an emotionally fear position problem. He's probably going to say, well, again, I was just searching for that right vehicle. I've seen so many people online promising different things. I never pulled the trigger with the coaching program. So, I didn't know where to begin exactly. Well, my turn now. I'm role-playing it kind of. Well, I know you didn't know where to begin. That makes complete sense, but I'm asking what prevented you from actually jumping in and saying, let's get started. Let's even work with one of these coaches and dive in. What was the thing holding you back? You see, we're still here. What's the biggest challenge? We're still on this because we haven't gotten a concrete answer. Then maybe he'll say, well, I was just overwhelmed with family stuff and life, and I didn't really pull the trigger on anything because I was a bit skeptical. We have 2 answers now. Family life, remember this here. Time, I cannot let I didn't have enough time or family life be the thing that stops them, because I can't fix that. So our company, he will not pay us to fix that. So I'm going to wipe that out. In terms of family life, I hope everything's all right, brother. Are you in a position now where if it made sense, you could start making money with ecomm and actually commit work, effort, and time to it? Doesn't mean 20 hours a week, but even 10 hours a week to building a better future. Could you do that? He should say yes to that. And I would say, no, I'm good now, bro. It's just back then some stuff with my family. Gotcha. So going back to this, you mentioned the skepticism. What's the skepticism about? What's the thing that I guess holds you back from going all in when it comes to being skeptical? Now we're on a track of skepticism. I'm talking about what's been holding him back there. All right. So maybe I'll have to educate him a little bit on how the industry works. I'll have to educate him on how a program works a little bit potentially. But see how we're here now? Watch this. Let's go back to the original problem. What's the biggest challenge, bro? I guess holding you back from 10, 12K a month and changing your life, growing the ecomm business. Let's say this now. New answer. Yeah, I've been trying it. I've been doing this for 3-6 months, and I've seen some success, but it just seems like products and just all the logistics around product and understanding markets and when to sell what. We tend to fuck that up a lot, and I tend to get that wrong, I think, and we've just seen a lot of inconsistency. Gotcha. Tell me more about that. With the inconsistency, what have you been seeing in terms of numbers? We're on a completely different conversation now. It's not the same as the first round because he's already been doing it. So there's more data now. So the problem is more technically positioned. So I'm going to go down a track of how have you tried to fix this? What have you done to try to fix that? Make sense? So we're going to have a dialogue around the problems, and I'm going to continue going until we have a clear, identifiable problem that our company can solve. One problem A and problem B. Normally it's going to be two. Often it's going to be 2 problems. I'm okay if it's just one. I don't necessarily need it to be 2 problems. I'm okay if it's one, but I do want something that's concrete, something that we can anchor to that our company can solve, right? So then we go to urgency. Urgency is the next phase, which is assigning a trigger. Remember what we went here, the trigger that is the clear, identifiable reason for this person to take action now to make change in their lives versus doing it later. So we asked them, how long has getting to this thing been important to you? We first assign a time gap, which means the length of time that they've wanted to achieve XYZ outcome. Okay, that's number 1. And then I asked, what's the main trigger behind you wanting to make this now and wanting to kind of set yourself up for everything versus doing it at a later date? What was the moment where this became important to you? I'll ask that question because, again, I want him to assign time, cost, moment, or who. I want him to assign that to this call. Now, if we get a good answer here, bing, check mark. If we get this checked off and we get a nice little time gap, we get a nice, maybe it's been important for me for 3 years, for 4 years, 2 years, 6 months even. I prefer years, but months I'll live with. Right, once we get that established, now we have more grounds for them to make a buying decision. Perfect dream scenario. That's what I was looking for. We're good to go, right? We've got an urgency trigger. And then what I'll do again is I'll create dialogue. So what dialogue sounds like, because I told you I would explain it to you. We want dialogue around this. What does dialogue sound like? Let's say that I asked the prospect, let's say I asked this guy, John, the construction worker. So John, like, what's the trigger behind you wanting to take action to change everything for yourself and your family now versus like later on? I know you mentioned money. I know you mentioned all that, but everyone wants to make money, of course. So what's the main trigger where it's like became important to you to have the call with me and to look at making change here? So ask that. Maybe he'll say, yeah, you know, man, it's just my daughter just turned 5. We're going to be having to send her to a new school in 2-3 months, and it's going to be a bit farther out. So I want to make sure that I can even drive her, because at this point I'm not going to be able to drive her. I'm giving a really good answer there, right? That's a good answer. Not every prospect's going to give that kind of answer, but for training's sake, let's say that he does, right? So then I'll ask him, creating dialogue would be, she's going to a new school. How far away is that going to be? There's a lot of driving there. It's going to be a 45-minute drive, but it's one of the better schools. We want to make sure her education comes first. Dude, that's huge, man. That's massive. And with the work you're doing now, you just wouldn't be able to drive her because of the day-to-day schedule. Nah, I wouldn't. And who would be driving her? The wife, I guess, or who's driving her? Yeah, my wife would take her. Sometimes my grandma can drive, and sometimes my mom can take her and drive. Oh, I see. And I guess you, as a father, you want to just be more involved, because I'm sure it's not just you driving her just to school. There's other things I'm sure you wouldn't be involved in, like even school projects. I don't know if she's in any sports or games, like, or ballet, whatever she's doing. But I'm sure there's other things you want to be involved in too, or how do you feel? What's the situation? He dialogues on that. Yeah, man, she's doing this, she's doing that. And we're going to be putting her into art school, not like crazy professional art school. We're going to put her into like art projects, and I want to be able to be a part of that. Yeah, dude. And right now, construction is just taking time. And you said you're doing overtime too, right? Weekends? Yeah, overtime. Yeah, that's great. That makes sense. So it seems like a lot of the driver behind you doing this is for her, and you're on a bit of a timeline, because school starts 3 months, and I assume she'll be going to that school for a while. It's not just like she's starting now and she's out. She's going to grow up and go to the school, assuming the school's good. He should say yes to that. Yeah, she'll be there. Got you, bro. So you're doing this for family. I see it. It's massive. I love it. Now we have an urgency gap. Now we have an amazing urgency gap. Do you see how it happens? Do you see how it manifests? Do you see how it unfolds? That is the game, my friend. That is how we do this. And then we go creating, I said urgency gap, urgency trigger. Then we have gap creation. That's the next phase. So what I want to do is I want to establish, when we're there, what changes then versus now. So the scripting here is very simple. When we get you to 10K per month, what changes in your situation then versus now? Now, a lot of times, this question, the way I ask it, is not going to sound this way, because I would have had prior context, right? So with this guy, I would not ask the question, what changes, because I already know what changes. So instead, I'm going to say, so this is how it would sound, me modifying the scripting now. So you get to that point, 10, 12K months, which you definitely can do. It's absolutely possible, bro. It's going to take work. But it's definitely not something that other people haven't done, I should say. When you're in that position, when we help you to be in that position, what does that look like for you life-wise? Just you being able to invest back into your family more, being able to give a better version of yourself to them. What does that look like week to week? What does that look like day to day? Tell me about what that life is like for you as a father, as a man. Oh, I love sales, man. You hear that scripting? How nasty was that? Nasty in a good way. If English is not your first language and you didn't get the expression. Nasty. That's what they say when someone makes a sick shot in basketball. Right? Oh, his jump shot's nasty. It's clean. Right? So, do you see what we're doing here? Do you see how we're basically creating a gap, painting a vision, painting a future? And then the other side is, and how I would ask that question. So he would ask me, he would answer that positively, ideally. He would give me a good answer. And then I would go into what would it feel like? What would the emotions be like? Just as dad, what would the feeling be being in that position for your family, bro? Then we go second thing, in the other side of it not happening, you don't make this happen because you don't take the right actions or have the right people in your corner, which I know you're aware of that and you want to do that. Let's say you didn't make that happen, which we don't want to happen. I don't believe you have an intention to not let this happen, okay? But let's say it did. What's the downside? What's the consequence of that for your life personally? I ask him that. We get a negative, right? It wouldn't be good. Well, tell me what wouldn't be good. What would life look like if this continues, especially as you get older as a man? You're 29 now. You're going into your 30s. You have a daughter who's 5. What does this look like as a husband, as a father? We attach negative outcomes to it. We attach fear state, what we don't want to happen, consequence, right? simple question to get to that point as quickly as possible, to get to 10K, 12K, and have the freedom for your family, bro, and give back to them. Do you feel like there are changes then that need to be made to the business model that you use, or to you actually doing something online to create freedom? That's what I would do if he had done nothing, if he was like pure biz op, or if he had already done something, the other guy, the other prospect, same guy but different universe, he's done more. I would go, so to get to that point, do you feel like there are changes you need to make in the business to like actually get some systems in place, actually get the right marketing in place, get the right tools in place so that you can grow it? Do you feel like those changes do need to be made now? He should say yes to that, and are you willing to make the changes? Or is that a thing you're in line with, bro? Like, seriously, are you willing to? He says yes, we're good to go, time to pitch. That is how you run a proper discovery. Hopefully it was clear. I genuinely cannot be more clear than this without coaching you, without personally hopping on with you multiple days a week and teaching you how to do this, which is what myself and what Charlie, we do in protocols. Charlie's your discovery coach. He's been our channel, one of the most elite discovery reps that I've seen yet. And I trained him. So, no, it's all Charlie. He's a killer. But you know, this is the discovery process that we have. Okay, we're gonna go into pitching next. I'm debating if I should pause this and take a little break before I continue. I think I'm good to run. Let's keep going. So, the next phase is pitching. Now, I want you to understand, and I took these notes directly from our protocols training programs. This is the notes that we have in protocols, actually. So I'm genuinely giving you the best stuff we have. Like, I'm giving you the stuff that people are paying, like my consulting clients pay tens of thousands of dollars for this, and our protocols clients pay thousands of dollars for this information and the training. It's not just the information, but it's the actual training. So let's go ahead and talk about some pitching, all right? Pitching at an elite level. So when pitching is really important, whenever I work with an agency owner or like a coach, someone who runs an info product, actually, surprisingly, the first thing I always work on with them is the pitch. When I was working with NeroKnowledge, who you guys may know on YouTube, I consulted for him and built his sales process and hired and trained his sales team. When you're pitching is the first thing. When you're a business owner, pitching is the thing that's actually going to make the most change for you, because most business owners do not actually know how to sell very well. Even business owners who are making tens of millions of dollars, they're not great closers. They're good at selling as business owners, because when you're a business owner, you have more conviction. You can offer certain discounts, certain deals. You're just the business owner. You are the entity to an extent, so you can overcome a lot more versus when you're a closer, which I assume most of you watching this are closers. Pitching is extremely important, extremely valuable, but I'd rather you start with having an elite discovery and elite objection handling. But what I do on my roadmap is, especially with my one-to-one guys or guys that are in protocols advanced and who are, at higher skill levels, we work on pitching after they've mastered discovery and objections. So either way, this information is valuable. And if you're a business owner, this is even more important, because what happens is when you pitch, and before you reread the text on the screen here, just hear me out. When you pitch, that's when the prospect in their mind goes, check, I'm buying this, right? That's what happens when you pitch. Because objections are not where the sale is made. Everyone nowadays thinks, because all the cool highlights on Instagram from these like little kid closers who all close for 7th level, all of them, they all show like highlights of just objection, and it's all flashy. Is it the problem? Is it the symptom? Or heavy is the crown that, what is the thing? Heavy is the head that wears, all these stupid fucking quotes they all say, right? But objection handling at its core, real with you, objection handling is not the way you close deals. Objection handling is an extraordinarily important process for understanding sales psychology and understanding how decisions are made, yes, but it is just a tool. The thing that actually makes the person say, yes, I'm doing this, is the pitch. Discovery gets them prepared to receive it, and the pitching is what drives it forward and slams it into the ground. Objection handling is just when there's a few problems, being able to handle them and put on the hat of problem solver. That's why we need to learn how to handle objections, and it's a non-negotiable. You have to actually handle objections. Okay, so let's go into pitching at an elite level. And I'll read through this, and I'll break this down, how I train in protocols. So pitching is essentially offering a solution to the prospect. You're presenting to them a solution to their problem, and you're laying everything out of the table, and you're giving them the exact solution that you'll need to get to their goals. And I want to tell you one more thing really quick before I break this down. This pitching model that we have is literally the best pitching model that I've seen in the sales space. Okay? I'm straight up with you. Not for if you have a perfect offer. If you have a perfect offer, there's other ways to pitch that I think could be different, but no offer is genuinely completely perfect from what I've seen, except for a very small handful. So this is good for pitching offers that are like 90% good, 80% good, even 50% good. Use this. And it's very rare that I'll say that what I do is the best at one specific thing. There's pretty much like 2 or 3 things I think I'm genuinely the best at that I haven't seen another person who's better than me at. Number 1 is coaching sales. I do not yet know anyone who's better than me at coaching sales reps. I think there are people who are better than me at sales, by the way. I don't think I'm the best sales rep ever. That's stupid to say that. I don't know anyone who's better at training sales reps, meaning conveying these ideas and teaching them in a format, because I've been a coach for much longer than I've been a sales rep. So my background is coaching. So there's that. And I don't know anyone who can pitch as well as I can, meaning using this format. And I'll explain why, because this is not a format that I learned in sales. I never learned it from high ticket sales. My old mentor was a copywriter. So I did copywriting for about 6 months. I never really made money with it, or good money with it. I just got into it as a thing I tried. But I learned about like copy frameworks and how to convey information, and it changed my mindset when it comes to showing and displaying value to prospects. So this is a pitching strategy that is not used primarily in high ticket sales. It actually comes from copywriters that have done like 9 figures, like multiple millions, like tens of millions of hundreds of millions of dollars in cold traffic copy. I take that and I brought that into how I pitch in my sales process, and it works like a fucking dream, okay? So no pitch should ever sound the exact same. You always want your pitch to be customized to what the prospect is feeling, and you need to basically bring up and have them relive their holy grail in the pitch. That's the way that I pitch. That's the strategy that I use. So there's a couple protocols, practices, tools we can use, but the model that we follow is called benefits pitching, okay? We call this the benefits pitching model. And we use something called benefits, mechanisms, and delivery. I should actually replace this with deliverables. I don't know why we don't call it deliverables in the program. But benefits, mechanisms, deliverables, okay? So the first stage of every pitch, before I get into the exact scripting and training, I want you to understand the first stage when you pitch is the benefit. Each of these stages has a different goal, a different outcome. In the benefit stage, what your singular goal is to make the prospect in their mind say, yes, I'm in, that's what I need. That doesn't mean they're ready to swipe their card, by the way, but they're conceptually in theory. So they're like, yep, that's exactly what I needed. Let's pretend this ecomm guy, let's go back to the ecomm, our favorite prospect, who's not real, but is an example of a common prospect for a coaching offer. So guy wants to get out of construction with ecomm. Benefits, you need to make sure that you start your pitch telling him where you're going to be within the next X period of time. You don't need to assign a time always, but where you're going to be through this program, through this partnership, through this training cycle. Where you're going to be is benefit A and benefit B. I always like to have 2 benefits. Usually the benefits are anchored to the same thing. Usually it's anchored to speed of achieving result, and then longevity and long-term freedom. That's usually what the benefit is always anchored to almost every time. I would do this in dating. I'm doing this now on the offer that I'm closing on, the high-ticket dropshipping offer. I do this for protocols. So if you guys ever get a demo call with me and I break down any benefits to you, I'm going to literally paint you a picture of your skill set. Your skill set is going to be as good as possible, as quickly as possible, so that you can start earning 10, 15K per month within a realistically quick timeline, faster than a lot of other sales reps do. And then the second one is long-term. So we want you to achieve this kind of success for the rest of your life and more. You should not be at 15K per month in 3 years. You should be making 50, 100K per month, right? But we're establishing baselines here that are going to create a different life for you over a longer period of time. That's how I establish benefits when I pitch. Okay, so those 2 things. Number 2 is mechanisms. So mechanisms are essentially the strategy, the strategy that the company, that we as a company will use to help you achieve XYZ benefit. So the goal of benefits is to make the prospect in their mind say, yep, that's what I was looking for. I'm in. Not take my money yet, because they need to hear the rest of it. But they're just like mentally, we're checking the box of, holy shit, I was looking for that. And then mechanisms is the strategies that back the benefits. So the strategies have to make sense. So the mechanism should confirm that the benefit can actually come true. That's the goal of a mechanism, right? A mechanism is not how many coaching calls you're going to get. The mechanism is not how long the program is. Those are not mechanisms. Those are all deliverables, which I'll explain the difference in a second. But mechanisms are the strategies that the company uses. So like the unique mechanism. So as an example in protocols, I could actually, some of you may have already seen this if you've ever gotten a demo call, although our close percentage on demos is like 50% or 60, something like that. So you're probably in protocols if you ever gotten a demo call with us. But as an example, these are our 3 mechanisms that we use. And this is completely honest. It's not like a trick. I'm telling you guys right now, I sell using complete honesty. I just weaponize honesty and make the truth sound as amazing and delicious as possible. But this is what we do. These are our mechanisms. Pressure is number 1, where we train our clients under a lot of pressure. It's very intense. It's hard to be in protocols, and there's a lot of pressure on you to perform in a good way. We have a good culture around that. Then error correction, we want you to be perfect because closers who make a lot of mistakes do not get paid. And then repetition, doing the same things over and over and over and over again without fail, consistently, religiously, without failure, okay? So we have those three things. Those are our mechanisms. And these mechanisms, these strategies back the benefits, and they make the benefits actually make sense, right? And then we have deliverables. Deliverables are the easiest part. This is just the format in which the mechanisms are going to be delivered. That's it. So how many coaching calls per week? Is it group? Is it one-to-one, right? Is there course material? How many weeks is it going to be? How long do I have access? Whatever other pieces. Is there like an in-person week workshop? Is there like, a certain portals, certain modules, whatever bonuses? Those are all, that's deliverables, okay? And that's the least important part. It's still important. You need to deliver all of these equally well. Benefits is the most important one. Mechanisms backs benefits, and you need to deliver the fuck out of mechanisms still. Excuse my language. I'm cursing a lot here, but I'm exhausted from teaching, and I'm literally about to go run a 90-minute protocol session. So that is why I'm like this. But we have these three things: benefits, mechanism, deliverables, right? So in benefits, you need to understand. I already explained to you what benefits was, so I'm not going to read through all of this. Generally, what I want to convey is like it's going to be speedy, it's going to be fast, it's going to be relatively easy. You can't just say it's going to be easy, by the way, like it's going to be easy, but relatively easy compared to what you're doing now, and then the specific benefit of getting to that point. So I want to give you an example of what a benefit is not, because a lot of sales reps mess this up. So let's pretend that you're selling, let's go back to ecomm, and I was going to talk to this guy, John, in construction. Here's what a bad example of this would be. It's going to sound good. I'm going to make it sound really good, and then I'm going to explain to you why it's actually not good. So if I were to, a bad benefit would be, yeah, John, so the first goal for us really is that you learn how to scale your ecomm business and you understand the structures that lead to an ecomm business scaling and being successful. And meaning you're not running your ecomm business in the dark, but you're actually running it like with clarity, so that every single week the decisions that you make as a business owner, without you investing lots of time, but the decisions you make as a business owner, those 5 to let's say 15 high-end hours that we're going to require you to put in are hours that are leading to you making money, but hours that are effective in your business and you're doing things the right way. That was atrocious what I just said. It sounds good, but it was terrible, because nothing I just said was a benefit. All I said was you're going to be able to run your business well. That's not a benefit to him. He doesn't give a fuck about running a business. What he cares about is the end outcome of making the money, and cares about being able to give back a better life to his family, right? So that was not a good benefit. And if I heard someone say that in protocols, we would have coaching on. I would say, hey, let's correct it this way. And that's what we do in our live sessions. We correct and we tweak and we make changes, right? So here's an example though of that. I'm going to give that same sounding benefit, but I'm going to do it perfectly, okay? So here's how it sounds. So John, really our first goal for you is where you're able to scale the business to hit months of 15, what we'd even call scale, just grow the business to 15K profit as quickly as possible by doing it efficiently. So right now there's a lot of blind spots I know that you have where when it comes to product, when it comes to your ad spend, when it comes to your creatives, when it comes to copy, all the things we talked about earlier, we want to make sure those things are no longer holding you back from just seeing cash come in and then increasing your profit margins very, very fast so that you're paying yourself more, right? Like that's the immediate primary goal we have, and that's why we have something called a 60-day ramp up. I'll explain to you what that is in a second. But our 60-day ramp up is basically where, or I should say the outcome of that ramp up is where you see profits coming in and you're significantly closer to freedom very, very fast because you've set the business up correctly and you're doing the small things right. And those are the things that we can control, John, to be clear. Does that make sense? All right, that was perfectly done. The reason why it was done is because you saw what I anchored to. I anchored to cash. You're going to have money coming in and you're going to be doing it quickly. I didn't anchor to you'll scale the business or you'll make good decisions in the business, because that does not matter. That's a mechanism. If anything, that's a mechanism, right? The benefit to him is he will have money coming in so that he can give a better life to himself and his family. That is the benefit. Does that make sense? So I'm jumping to benefits. I'm skipping over mechanisms and strategy. Maybe I might reference it indirectly and seed it. Seed it meaning I might plant the seed that we're about to talk about it, but I will not anchor to it. That would be incorrect. Hopefully it makes sense and hopefully you're clear on this. Here's some examples I have here. Like the Warrior Program is a 3-month transformation you'll go through to give you that Greek god body by this summer. Do you see? Boom, immediately. This is for fitness offer, I would guess, in the example I gave here in protocols. Here you can see we're starting off with that Greek god body by this summer. See, there's the first benefit. We're going to put you through a very specific hyper-focused process so that you can make gains much easier than you have been up until now. You notice how I'm not focusing on what the process is. We're going to get there when we go into mechanisms, but we talk about end benefit. Another example here, you can read it, skim it yourself if you want to pause and just look at this. If you want to take a screenshot, I'll go down here. Our process is simple. Those are all benefits, right? All right, so let's look at mechanisms. Mechanisms are interesting because mechanisms are fun. I like this. Mechanisms are tools. They're the tools by which the offer is going to help the prospect get a result. A lot of guys, a lot of sales reps, girls and guys that I've trained, when I hear them, when they hear mechanisms, they're like, okay, so we're going to have 3 group calls. That's not a mechanism. That's not a strategy. That's a delivery. That is a delivery tool, right? It's like how many calls you have. That's not a strategy. That's just a number of calls. The mechanisms are the strategies by which your company uses to create change. Does that make sense? So we need to establish mechanisms because they back benefits. So it's some example mechanisms are like inner transformation. You notice how I didn't say how many coaching calls, we didn't say how long, we just said changing the way you see yourself so that it becomes like second nature for you to attract high quality women. That's one that I think I used on my dating offer that I was closing for, right? Another one, digital accelerator process. To make your marketing process hyper streamlined and easy so you can focus 90% of your attention on delivering client results, right? You see how that's a mechanism, it's a strategy. Health management model. This will organize all your food and supplement inputs to save you hours each week. Imagine a second brain just for your health so you can start to feel great in your body and make consistent weight loss very, very easy. What we want to do is we want to make these mechanisms very efficient in our explanations while we're still focusing on benefits. It's very important we do this because remember, people are going to buy because of the benefits. They're not going to buy because of the mechanisms. The mechanisms merely confirm that the benefits can happen. The mechanisms are just a strategy in which our company uses to achieve XYZ benefit, okay? And then we have delivery. Delivery is the easiest part. I'm going to run through this really fast. This is just how many sessions, how many calls, what level of group support. Again, you can see the scripting here. How we do that, we're going to work with you one-on-one. You'll have your own accountability coach. You get the idea. That's delivery. And then after that, we drop investment, okay? We go investment of the entire program, what all the next steps are going to be, etc. Then we say, sound good? How do you feel? We're ready to get you started. And then you go into, either they close, they have 1 or 2 questions about logistics or how the program works, or we go into objections. One more thing I'll say really fast. I actually did miss something because I ran through this kind of quickly at the end. One thing I do is I don't do a temp check afterwards. I don't like to temp check and say, how do you feel? Because we haven't mentioned the price and everyone always just factors the price into how they feel. And so I've found just psychologically, people don't really feel good about the thing until they have the complete picture. That's what I found and what I tested. I've done both. So instead what I do is I don't temp check them. I just say, do you have any questions about what you're getting? Does it all make sense? That's it. I just want to know, do they have any questions about the above? And do you know why I do that? Because when I finish the pitch and I drop price, I want to make sure that if they have any objections, it's not about the logistics of the program, what they're getting or how it works. That the only questions or concerns they have is just about their own fear or about their own life and their ability to use this, maybe something, money, something like that, right? So what I'll do is after I pitch everything, before I go into price, before I go to investment, I'll pause and I'll say, I don't think I actually wrote this here. That's interesting. Maybe I modified this, but after the 3 points of emphasis, I actually don't drop price immediately. I pause and I say, okay, before I go into investment, which I'll do that next, do you have any questions about what you're getting? Does it all make sense? And just like how we do things, do you have any questions on it? And I want to make sure they're completely clear. And then I'll say, okay, so we'll go investment. Investment is, and then we break down the investment, if that makes sense, okay? Hopefully it's clear. Let's go ahead and dive into objections. I'm going to take a quick bathroom break and we'll run back and keep on training, okay? We got a bit more to get to. All right, so let's run some objections training here, which is the final piece of my sales framework. Some of you may have seen this before because this is a training that I've actually ran before. I have had some small tweaks to it, and as we've gotten more data, as I've trained more sales reps, as I've closed more cash myself, we've gotten a bit more data on this, and I need to update this. I need to make sure my numbers are accurate because this is 2 million. It's over 2.4 million now, so need to update that. But yeah. Let's go ahead and jump into this. So when it comes to objection handling, you have to understand first the psychology of objection handling. As I said earlier inside of the main training here, one of our fundamentals is that buying decisions are backed by logic and they're driven forward through emotion. Okay, so we need to understand that buying decisions are always backed by logic, which means it has to logically make sense to do this. A lot of sales reps think that, especially I don't know. I'm not going to say who thinks this, but a lot of sales reps, I've seen, it appears that you guys think that objection handling is kind of some magical trick where you like tricked someone into buying something. I don't believe objection handling is that. When I handle objections, which I'm very, very good at handling objections, when I handle objections, and I do some like crazy shit with objection handling, I don't do it to try to trick anyone. There's no tricks involved. There's no like, oh, gotcha, or haha, got him. It's not that. There's no trickery. There's nothing underhanded. Zero. Like I'm not exaggerating. There's zero of that. It's all transparent. It's all honesty. It's just getting people to really decide at the end of the day who they want to become. And does it logically make sense to do this? And if it does logically make sense, how do you get out of your own way? There's something I don't have here that I haven't actually updated in this training, but I'm going to break it down for you. So the way I see it is, imagine this is a prospect, right? This is a little prospect. We'll make the little face. Okay, great. So on one side of the prospect, there is something that I call the angel. That's a fucking big word. We call this the angel. It's on one side of the prospect. And on the other side is what we call the little devil, okay? My goal and I'll explain what these two things mean. My goal as a sales rep is to get the prospect to listen to the angel that's on their side and not to listen to the devil, okay? The angel is what I call willingness. Willingness is the term that I use. Willingness to make change, willingness to bet on, because there's a risk. You don't know what's going to happen next. You never know. You can't see the future. Willingness to bet on a better future. Willingness to take a stab at change and give themselves, their family, their lives something better. I don't care if this person's already making a lot of money and they just want more freedom. I want them to listen to the angel. The angel is willingness. The angel is courage. The angel is saying, you can do this. The angel is saying, hey, you got this. I'm rooting for you. You can make this happen for yourself, right? And then on the other hand, we have the devil. The devil is fear. The devil is hesitation. The devil is saying, who knows what the future holds? You have to preserve resources. Sometimes it is good to preserve resources, and I can't tell anyone what to do. I can't do that, and nor should you ever try to do that in objection handling. And I make that very clear. I tell my prospects, I'm not here to tell you what to do. I'm just here to help you make the best decision, because I am really here to do that. And for most people, what I found is, assuming that the offer is good and that the company can help, the best decision is to take action and to change their lives, because they would not have been on the call either way, if that was not the case, right? Thus, the logic here doesn't make sense for them to not do it, right? But oftentimes, emotionally, that devil on their shoulder is whispering in their ear. The devil is a combination of past fears. It's a combination of just evolution, right? Evolution. You have a resource. You have your chicken. Don't give up your chicken. Your money, your resources, your food, your sustenance. Don't give it up in exchange for something that potentially could be better, right? And I completely get it. I understand it. So your job as a sales rep is to partner with the angel side of them, speak to that identity in that side, and get them to pick that side live on the call, which is what we call the emotional driver. So the emotional driver is what causes them to say, hey, let's go forward and do this now. Now, what I'd say is, I want to give something very clear. You can get to a point in sales where you become so good at running discovery that you actually rarely get objections, or if you do get any, you can knock them out extremely quickly. That there is a place in sales where you can get to that point. A lot of people don't really get there. The way I train in protocols, our reps, once they get to a certain skill level, they do actually get there, and it is absolutely possible. I'm at that point myself. I don't really get many objections. So, in fact, I have to, whenever someone gives me a small concern, sometimes if I want to have a cool highlight reel or something to, show people, I'll be like, okay, let's mess with the objection and do something cool here. But I sell so well in discovery, and I handle so many frames. If you guys watch the frame videos that I have on my channel, the big whiteboards that I make on frame control, frame setting, all those things, I don't really get any objections, to be honest, but it still happens. You still need to be prepared, because the only way you can really learn to prevent objections or pre-frame objections is if you understand how to handle objections. So it comes full circle. You have to know objections, because I had to go through all of this, by the way, before I ever learned how to actually not get any objections at all. So we'll run through this relatively fast. I have a lot of training on my channel on objections, so I'm not going to over-teach this. We'll give you a high-level overview, and then you can go and look at more of my specific objection handling videos. You could actually see me here, see objection stuff. If you look here, you can see on my channel, I have so much stuff already on objections. Boom, right here, my entire objection handling framework. I have this whole thing. So you can just watch any of these videos, and you'll be good to go. But let's go through some basics here. So first thing is, you need to understand that there's only two real objections. Okay, there's only genuinely two real objections, which is going to be fear of finances. Sometimes there will be a logistical concern. That is a thing, right? So in the middle, sometimes we'll have some kind of logistical issue or concern. I do not consider this an objection. That's why I don't put it here and I don't teach on it. We do teach it, how to handle it. but logistical concerns are not something that really need to be deeply addressed if you have common sense. I'm not even joking. I'm not going to teach you that here. Logistical concerns meaning like, oh, I have a vacation coming up next week. What's the fucking obvious solution? Okay, invest in the program now, make the commitment and start in a week. Obvious, right? So logistical concerns shouldn't be a problem. If you're getting cooked by logistics, then you have a lot of work to do in your process. The thing where most sales reps go wrong is that they hear things like this. They hear, I got to think about an objection. How do you handle it? I think about an objection. I think about it is not an objection. I need to think about it is a mask. It's not real. So all of these things up here, I got to talk to the husband or talk to the wife. Not every time, but oftentimes statements like this even, I have to talk to my partner, are a mask. And what a mask means is the person is outsourcing their fear onto someone else. So the devil on their shoulder, which is like, don't do this now, don't go into courage, don't go into willingness, is saying, hide behind, I need to think things over, I need to take my time, I need to take my time with this decision. Which again, totally fine if you want to do that. Part of my process though, I just want to logically see if that makes sense, which is where I cook the person and I end up closing them and I end up changing their life and I get paid and the company gets paid and they make a whole bunch of money or lose the weight, find their dream girl, right? So going back to this, there's I think about it, talk to my husband, send me an email. All of these are masks. None of these are real objections. They're not real. Send me an email is not a real thing. Like, okay, I can send you an email, but when I send you the email, what would you be looking for in the email that you want to take time on? Like, I don't mind sending, I genuinely do not mind sending it to you, but when I send it, what do you want to see in it? Because everything that, as far as the program, the information, everything we just went over this second. So what are you looking for in the email, right? I want to digest this a bit. You can literally digest it. Part of my process, I want to know what you need to digest just to see if I can help you. When my schedule clears up, can you tell me what your schedule is looking like? Because you only need 5 to 10 hours a week. So what does that mean? All of these are masks. These are not real objections. Okay, so when you hear these things, you cannot treat them at face value. You cannot take these things at face value because they are not real objections. We have an entire sheet inside of protocols actually on how to handle masks. I've actually shared it somewhere. You can download it or something. I don't know where we have it. We gave it away for a while, and then I think we stopped. But we have this a massive sheet on masks, and it's like I think like 17 to 20 different masks and objections and the logical lines you use to reframe them and handle them. We have that in protocols. We teach on it, so it's insane. There's an answer to pretty much all of these. Generally, there's ones that come up that you will never have heard before. Even sometimes I get masks that I've never heard before. But generally, there's answers and responses to these. But it's not like a script. It's just the logic of everything. The logic doesn't make sense, right? So there's only 2 real objections back to this. You're only going to either have fear or you're going to have finances. Finances, I do consider an objection because sometimes finances are an actual blocker and something that just needs to be solved and worked through, meaning sometimes people have a financial limitation or a financial limiting belief that is something that needs to be worked through. But the big, bulky objection that everyone gets stumped on and doesn't actually know how to handle is fear. Finances are a little more easy. You just chunk finances down. Do you have the money? Do you not? Or do you have a little bit of it? I have some of it, but it's tough. God, if you had the whole amount in your lap, would you do it today? Yes, I would do the whole. I would want to start. Gotcha. So if we broke it into something really easy and manageable for you and customized the structure for you, would that help you to move forward today, or how do you feel? Hopefully they say yes. If they say no, if you're like, well, I still need to think about it. Okay, then what do we know? It's not finances. It's actually fear because we just said we can help you, and they're not willing to do it, so it's fear. So then we go back over to fear. It's pretty simple. So we have these 3 kinds of fears. We have fear of the self, which means I don't know if I'm good enough to get results, right? Because maybe something in my life is coming up. Maybe my own level of competence. Maybe I feel like this is overwhelming for me. I've never done this before. That's fear of me. That's the prospect, myself. I'm scared because I think I can't do it. Fear of the company. This one is a little more rare. If you guys do your marketing well, if the company you're closing for or you as a business owner does your marketing well, you should not be getting tons of this. Genuinely, it should not be coming up. But this can happen, meaning like I'm not sure I trust you guys enough. I need more due diligence on what you guys do and who you guys are. Certain people are just tend to be distrusting, and you will get that at times. You can, but it's not the most common. And then we have fear of the past, which can oftentimes look like fear of self, but it is different. Fear of self is more so, I'm not sure based on my individual capacity or capability or life circumstances, whereas fear of the past is things happened in the past that had burned me, where I did not achieve results, and I'm taking that fear into my future. So it is a version of fear of themselves, but it's not just, oh, I have no reason for it. It's because I actually was burned, and the previous experiences are making me question, should I do this again or should I do it now? I want to make something clear, guys. Objection handling is not you taking someone from I don't want to do this to I do want to do this. Okay, and I will explain to you what that means in a second because that's part of the training here. Objection handling is not I don't want to do this, and then you do some magic And it's like, I do want to do it. Objection handling is, I do want to do this, and it sounds great, just not right now or not yet because of XYZ excuse making or XYZ outsourcing of my own logic or my own fear, right? And XYZ could mean a bunch of things. It just means the scripting, what they have said, right? So that's objection handling. It's taking someone from, I kind of do like this, or I love it a lot, I like it, I'm in, just not today, let's do it in a month, let's do it in a week, let me do it tomorrow. Because I'm scared, so I want to put distance between me actually paying this and taking action and the present moment. Because I'm afraid to part with my resources, generally, if it is fear, right? It could also be logistics. In that case, it's not an objection. It's just, hey, there's a little bit of a hump in your life. Here's a logistical, very simple way we can get over it. Does that work? Yeah, it works. Let's do it. That's logistics. No, it's not an objection. Okay. So we've got 3 initial steps following this process for how you handle objections. I'm going to run through these relatively quickly. Okay, I don't want to spend too much time on this. And plus, I have to go to objections training and protocols right after this. Oh, shit, my computer battery's going to die. And I'm not in my office. But I'll run through this really quick. I think we should be able to make it in time. So number 1 is, step number 1 is diffusing. Okay, diffusing is when someone gives you the mask at the very beginning, your first response should not be, no, why do you need to think about it? First response is always going to be, not a problem. Do whatever you need to do. It's okay. It's all good. So someone tells me, we'll start with this. We'll just use this one as the case study. Okay. I want to digest this a little bit. So let's say ecomm construction guy, we go through everything. He's like, yeah, dude, this sounds so good, man. Can I just digest this a bit and get back to you? My first response is not going to be, what do you want to digest? My first response is, yeah, not an issue. Take all the time you need. All good. After that, we go into buy-in. And by the way, guys, I'm going to give you scripting. I'm going to explain to you what we do. I'm going to explain to you how you should do this. Next step is going to be buy-in. Buy-in is essentially where we confirm with the prospect, do you actually feel like this can work for you and get your results? Because if the prospect does not feel that, then we cannot handle their objections because there is some other issue coming up for them that is actually about the value or the process. And objection handling is not, again, based on someone who doesn't want to do the thing or doesn't like it. It's based on someone who does like the thing but is hesitating. Okay? So buy-in is next, which is what's coming up for you. Buy-in is like temp checking. Do you actually feel like this is a thing that can help you? We just want to get a yes there generally, and then we want to get double buy-in, which is asking again. So we double it down. So I'm just curious, why do you feel like it can exactly? Like, what's the thing that resonates with you, right? That's the third step. We get double buy-in. Sometimes what will happen is people are going to say, I don't know, in buy-in. You'll say, do you feel like this can help? Sometimes you'll get people saying, I really don't know. The reason people say this 90% of the time is that they're just giving you the honest objection beforehand. So like, let's say this construction guy, John, let's say his I don't know is based on, I've been trying this for 6 months and I don't know, I seem like I can't get my head around it. So I'm just feeling really frustrated. Okay, that's his objection. So that would be a fear of self. We wouldn't know that yet, of course, in this part of the process, but let's pretend that's what the objection is going to be. Okay, so buy-in, you would say, yeah, no problem, John, take whatever time you need to digest it. I just want to know before anything else, do you feel like this can help you to like grow to 10, 15K months and get out the job and, you know, give the best version of yourself to your family? Do you feel like having us partner with you and being this journey with you can help you do that, or how do you feel? Because that's the most important thing for me. Okay, so when I ask that question, his response, worst case, is probably going to be, yeah, I mean, I don't know. Time will tell. That's what I have to see, and that's what I need to digest and figure out. He didn't say no. He probably feels it can, but he's just grounding himself in a lot of fear. So what I'm going to do, excuse me if you could hear that little burp, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go do something called going negative, which means I'm going to say, well, is there any reason you feel like it can't help you? And I'm not doing this because I actually want to start objection handling. I'm doing this just because I want him to say, no, there's no reason it can't. I'm just uncertain. And then I'm going to say, outside of the uncertainty, which we're going to figure out in a second when I handle your objections in a second, outside of that, do you feel like it can help? Let's just say you came and did the work and used everything we had and like you actually put your best foot forward. Do you feel like the way we do things can help you? He should, at that point, every prospect, I'm saying literally 95% of the time, is going to say yes. Sometimes you will get people who are deeply grounded in fear, deeply, and then you have to rinse and repeat again. But both people should say yes. So then we go double buy-in. What is double buy-in? Why do you feel like you can? You double down and say, give me justification for why you can. And the reason we need double buy-in is we need to make sure that it's real. We need to make sure that they're not just like, yeah. Because if they're just like, yeah, it's not real. And I need to make sure that we're handling objections on the same common ground and we're working together to achieve an outcome. Again, so I can talk to the little angel on the shoulder. I don't want to talk to the devil on the shoulder. All right. After buy-in, next step is clarification. What I need to figure out is what's behind the mask. I cannot handle this. Remember, I can't handle a mask. We cannot handle it. I need to handle what's behind the mask. So what I'm going to say is, it's not a problem, brother. Take your time. When you step away and digest it, what's coming up for you in terms of digesting in that thought process that makes you want to do that? And it's not a problem. I just want to see if I can help it out before we go. So I'm trying to figure out what's coming up behind the digesting things. What is coming up for this person? Clarifying. Okay? If all goes right, excuse me, if all goes as is planned and as should happen, this will not happen every time. Most of the time, it won't go like this, by the way. But generally, people will say, sometimes they will say, yeah, it's just this concern. So in John's case, if he's just going to give me the real objection, he'll say, yeah, man, it's just I've been in ecomm for a bit, and I don't want to necessarily rush into something because I have been in a situation where I felt like I've been trying and I haven't gotten what I needed to so far. So it makes me a little bit hesitant before just going into this and starting like this. That didn't even fully make sense what I just said, but you get the idea. This is an objection people will give. Now we know that it's self-fear. Again, now here's what I'll tell you. What usually will happen, by the way, is they will give another mask. That's usually what's going to happen. They're going to give another mask in between here. They're not going to give you the real objection. So that's why we often have to rinse and repeat, and we have to stick in between these two things. I'll explain step 5 in a second. But most of your objection handling is going to be here. It's going to be clarifying and logic, and just going back and forth playing ping pong. So what that would look like in real time, like I'll explain to you what that should look like, is John realistically would say, a real prospect would probably do this. He would say, yeah, no, it's just, man, I don't want to rush into anything right now from a call like this. So what I'm going to do is logic island. Logic island means where I make the prospect's logic not make sense compared to my logic. So my logic has to win. And we call this closing doors. So I'm slamming logical doors where the logic that they're using to avoid making change does not actually make sense anymore. Okay? So what's going to happen is he'll say, yeah, I just don't want to rush into it. Something like this, I'd rather take my time on a decision. I'll cut him off or jump in right after that. Frankly, John, to be real, it's been 6 months, my friend. It's been 6 months of you not being where you need to be in ecomm and you not having the right tools and processes in place. So, and this is with respect, all due respect, this is not you rushing. This is actually too late. We're behind the curve. We're 6 months late right now. So this is not rushing. So if that makes sense, you know what I mean, moving with speed to create the income that you want for yourself and your family. This is actually too late, if we're being honest with ourselves. 6 months of wasted time. So that's logic island. My logic's going to win. There's no way he's going to fight me on that. Some people will be a little cheeky and be like, well, I just found out about you on the call. And then you have to have even better scripting, better process, better congruency to be able to beat that. I'm not going to train on how to do it now because it takes too long. But that's logic island. So I'm going to close the door on this logically. So we can't use that. And then I will go back now to clarification. So now that door on being rushed, that's finished. You can't use that anymore. So going back to what you were mentioning, John, about just digesting, what is it that you want to digest? What's coming up for you in that process that makes you want to digest it? And I'm asking just for clarity, see if I can help, man. That's it. And then we go again. So now what he should do is give the real objection, ideally. Some prospects will give another mask. They'll say, no, I just got a lot of things going on life-wise, with a lot of stuff coming up. We have another baby on the way, so we're just planning for that. So there's a lot of movement going on right now. Again, what would I have to do? Logic Island. Just curious, brother, you're planning on then not running ecomm? Wouldn't it even be more important, actually, since you have a baby on the way, to start to prepare life for her and for the family, the new family changes you have coming up, which means your ecomm business is even more important now in creating that future. Unless I'm wrong, he's cooked. There's no way he's going to say, no, having a better future isn't more important. So I should beat him there. He should say, yes, so it is. There's just a lot going on. Gotcha, bro. In terms of ecomm, though, are you shutting everything down? You're not running ecomm at all, or you have at least 5-10 hours a week to still put in to make sure that come, when your daughter's in the new school and when the baby comes, I guess maybe next year she's coming, when you have it, she's coming in, she's going to be here in March. Oh, okay. So when the new, actually that's a long timeline, so let's not say that. Let's say January. She's coming in January. So when the new baby comes, everything's good for her and you're starting to make more money and just give more to your family. Because that's the thing you're still doing, right? He says, yes, because we got him again. Close the fucking door. Logic Island. He's trapped on that island now. He can't leave it. He's done. And then I go back. Got you, brother. So I just want to know what's coming up for you that you want to digest things. And it's not a problem if you do. I just want to know what's coming up to see if I can help, because that's really my job. So now he has nothing else outside of giving me the truth. Yeah, it's just I'm uncertain because I've tried this for a long time. Perfect. Fear. It's all good, brother. We're going to help you. I'm here for that. That's what we're here for, because you have tried it a long time. You've just done it wrong. There we go. So we then use a perspective. That's what we call it. We drop a perspective. I can write that in here just for a little more clarity. We use a perspective at this point. Ooh, I can't edit this, or can I? Yeah, there we go. So in here is what we call perspective. So I'm basically going to give the prospect some kind of insight about their current situation. Usually this comes out as an analogy or some kind of metaphor. I'm not going to break them down now because that's a whole nother training that would literally take an entire hour, and we do train on that. Again, you can see on my channel, you can look at those trainings, but I'm going to give them another perspective. And a perspective basically that counters the position that they're coming from. So if he's like, I'm nervous about doing this because of X reasons, I'm going to say, here's the exact reasons why you should commit to it. Not our program, but commit to a better future. And I want to get the prospect to pick a certain identity. To say, do you want to be the person who does X for his future or does Y? That's not emotions yet. That's a logical crossroads. We call it logical island, and we give them a logical crossroads. Who would you like to be? I would like to be this person. Gotcha. So what does that person do? Frankly, brother, it's not delaying it and taking time and putting it off and walking away from it. It's taking action and changing your life. Now we have that. They'll wrestle with the idea. We call this thing valley of decision, where they're going to be like, oh, you're right. You got me. And when that happens, they're usually around here. They're stuck in between the angel and the devil, and they're going over to the side of the angel, but they just need a little push. And what is that push? Emotional driver. So then what I'll do is I'll give them emotions, emotional commitment. I'll say in terms then of you deserving this future, do you feel like your family deserves that to happen? There's one, they should say yes to that. And then do you feel like you're prepared emotionally and energetically to be that man who is driving this family forward to success, not just for them, but also for you, brother, and who you want to be, the legacy you want to leave behind? Do you believe you deserve or you want to be that person and take that action? Yes, I do. Then what does that person do left? Frankly, he puts himself in the best position to succeed. And that's it. And we close it. That's the fast version of objections. Okay, I think all this shit has given you enough insight. And there's scripting. I already went through the scripting. If you want to take a screenshot of this, you can. I think it's pretty clear on the page here, but you can have this, screenshot it, take a second. But this is all the scripting. Not a problem, no issue, all good. Can definitely do that during diffuse, no issue, not a problem. Step number 2 is buy-in. We need the answer to be positive. Remember this. Step number 3 is why can it help you? Then we go clarification. What's coming up for you when you go and think things over? And then we give an analogy, a new line of logic, shut the door on it logically, have them pick the path they want to take in their lives, the logical crossroads, and then we go emotional crossroads. Emotional crossroads meaning the emotional driver behind moving forward. And I'll tell you one more thing. Most sales reps, there's 2 things they get wrong. One is they don't clarify enough, and they clarify once and they leave and go to Logic Island and try to give a perspective too fast. Because you're like, I think I know what the objection is. We see this with a lot of guys training in protocols, and this is what separates like level 2 closers from level 3 closers. In our program, we have 5 levels of skill. Level 5 is the highest level. Actually, we have levels higher than that, I'm sure, because like Charlie, myself, we're past level 5. But there's levels, there's like level 5 is the highest ranking you have in protocols. And level 3 closers often like know how to get this right. This is what separates a level 3 from a level 2 oftentimes. Level 2s will just jump into Logic Island, and they're kind of just like, oh, let me give a perspective really quick. Let me just give a perspective now. Because I think I know what the objection is, but you don't because you haven't clarified enough. And a lot of amateur closers or closers who are not like very, very good right now, they make those mistakes. And we don't want that to happen, okay? So that's everything. How long was this? 1 hour and 40 minutes. Shit, is this the longest video on the channel? Maybe. Hopefully this all made sense. And hopefully you found a substantial amount of value here. That was my intention in creating this. I wanted to just lay everything out, give you the most amount of value possible so you can take this, use it in your own calls, use it to literally change your life, change the life of yourself, your family. Again, if you'd like me and my team to help you, you can go down below and book a strategy call. It's going to be myself, or not myself, excuse me, someone on my team is going to have a conversation with you, 15 minutes, no pitch at all. We will not pitch you or sell you anything. There's going to be no objection handling. Don't worry, we're not going to help you make change, okay? Because that's what objection handling is. But we're not going to do that on the call. We'll just see if we can help you and if it would be a good fit to have a conversation about coming in and training in protocols. And if it is, then we'll invite you to book a demo call with myself. That's everything. Be blessed. Take care. Go make some money. Use this, apply it, copy paste this formula into your calls. I don't give this away for my health. I've spent a very long time building these models and these trainings and these teaching, and there's hundreds of thousands in commissions and millions of dollars in cash collected backing this. So I'm not giving this away for my health. Okay, so actually use it and don't waste my fucking time. Don't waste yours, okay? Be blessed. Take care. Go make some money, and I'll see you on the next one.